Here's a question I often hear when coaching someone who's in a job search. They ask some version of, how do I talk about what I've done without sounding like I'm bragging? I remember reaching the middle of my own career transition and asking myself a troubling question: what had actually accomplished so far in my career? What did I really have to offer the next employer? So I started writing it down, everything I'd done in all my prior jobs, both part time and full time after graduation, and what I had learned in every position that I could remember. And because I was already well into my career, the list grew fast: capital projects, major events, organizational initiatives, community service, people I had developed, careers I'd helped advance. And as the pages filled up, something hit me. I've been quietly downplaying so many of these experiences in my own mind. Some of them I'd almost even forgotten, even though they'd shaped my growth and the organizations I led. I began to feel a quiet sense of pride and was amazed at all the things that I had done that had been distant, if not forgotten, memories. But I also saw a problem. By not keeping all of that top of mind, I was undermining my ability to land my next position, downplaying the importance of my accomplishments, even if it just in my own mind was not helping me advance my career. And it was at that point I began to realize that experience only becomes a career value when you can recognize it, organize it, and put it into words. Modesty, when it comes to what you have accomplished, is one of the most common and most costly anxieties in career transition. And the answer matters because people who can't resolve it end up underselling themselves in ways that cost them opportunities, not because they lack experience, but because they don't make it visible. That's what this whole video unpacks. Today, we're talking about demonstrating value, what it actually means, why so many capable people struggle with it, and how to do it in a way that feels honest rather than performative. Demonstrating value is not the same as selling yourself, and it's not bragging. Here's the difference: bragging is making a claim you can't substantiate, or claiming credit that really isn't yours. Demonstrating value is giving someone enough specific evidence that they can draw their own conclusion about what you're worth. The person you hope will hire you doesn't know your track record. They can't see what you've done. It's your job, not the recruiter's job, to make that track record visible in a way that they can actually evaluate. Maybe here's another way to think about this: demonstrating value isn't about you, it's about them. When you clearly communicate what you've done and what you bring, you're giving the employer the information they need to make a good decision. Holding back doesn't make you humble, it makes their job harder and your candidacy weaker. Most people were raised to let their work speak for itself. You do good work, someone notices you, you get recognized. That model works in environments where paying close attention to your contribution. But it doesn't work in a job search where nobody knows your work, nobody's watching, and you have 20 minutes or less to make a compelling case for yourself. And in a career transition specifically, there's often an added layer. You're not entirely sure what you're worth in this new context. You've left a role where your value was established. You're entering a market where you have to reestablish your value both to yourself and to the future employer and fellow employees. That uncertainty can make self advocacy feel even more precarious. But here's the thing: people on the other side of the interview table need to need you to make the case clearly. They're not going to fill in the blanks generously. You have to fill them in for yourself. The trap here is vagueness. I have a strong project management skills. I'm a good communicator. I've led teams. These are claims, not evidence. They're things that every candidate says. They don't differentiate you, and they don't give you or the interviewer anything to hold on to. The other version of the trap is credit hedging, immediately attributing your contributions to the team. We worked really hard in that together. That might feel like appropriate humility, but it erases your specific contribution from the record at exactly the moment when you need it to be visible. You can acknowledge your team's contribution and still be clear about what you specifically brought. For example, you might say, the team executed really well, and my specific role was X. That's both accurate and self advocating. That's a balance. There are three approaches that work with this. Uh, First, quantify whatever you can. The numbers are the most efficient form of evidence. Revenue generated, costs received, reduced, time saved, people managed, error rates improved, customer satisfaction scores. Not every contribution has a number attached to it, but more do than most people realize. And if you haven't thought through carefully about the impact of your work in measurable terms, this week's exercise would be a good place to start. Second, use before and after language. Before I joined, X was happening. After we implemented the change I led, Y happened. That structure shows causation and impact even without hard numbers. It makes your contribution legible in a way that the general claim never does. Third, own your role without disclaimers. Watch for the linguistic habits that undermine your case. I was just a coordinator. It wasn't a big deal. I was only responsible for a smaller part. These habits are usually a sign of discomfort with self advocacy, not accurate assessments. Say what you did clearly, then stop. Demonstrating value is a skill, and like any skill, it gets more comfortable the more you practice. You've done the work worth talking about. The question isn't whether you have value to demonstrate, it's whether you've built the habit of making it visible. That habit starts here. This week's deep dive post on Tuesday goes into the full framework for qualifying, communicating your professional impact. On Wednesday, we'll meet on Zoom in the Pathfinder campus community, as we always do, in the Zoom room to share our experiences and stories. The meetings are open to everyone, and we are welcome to attend. We'd love to meet you and get to know you and share your stories. The practical exercise then on Thursday walks you through a building your personal profile inventory, a record of your contributions in specific, measurable terms. And the reflection piece on Saturday is about that relationship between self advocacy and self worth, which for a lot of people is where the process actually gets hard. You don't have to brag, you just have to be clear. And we look forward to meeting you and hope you will join us on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time in the Zoom community meeting room at pathfindercampus.ca. See you there.